So let's talk a little bit about the acting industry. It can definitely be confusing to know what's going on in this industry. There's so many different people. There's producers, executive producers, assistant producers, directors, casting directors, assistant casting directors, grips, gaffers. There's so many different people. Director of photography, cinematographer. What's the difference? There's a ton of different people. You don't need to know everything about the industry, but you do need to know some things. And in this video, I'd like to talk to you about who's who that actually matters to you as an actor and moving your career forward. All right. If you don't know these things, you're always going to be a bit confused, and you're also going to come off as like kind of stupid or like people are going to look at you weird if like they're talking about certain lingo in the industry and you seem confused, like you have no idea what they're talking about. You don't want that. So I'm going to go through a couple of basics in this video to kind of help you understand how people relate to each other and who can hire you and who you want to market to and all of that. So what's the difference between an executive producer and a producer? Well, the executive producer is basically somebody who's got the money, generally, and they invest in the film. They're either the person who sort of like, locks in funding for the film, or they fund it out of their own pocket. But basically, they kind of have the final decision over things because they're the one who's paying everybody. If you're an executive producer and you are looking on set and being like, I don't really I feel like this guy that the producer hired is not really working that well. You can actually go past the producer, who we'll talk about in a second, and fire somebody or force the producer to remove somebody. It's kind of like you're the owner of a film or like the owner of a company. You can hire people and then those people do hiring down below you and all that. So in general, an executive producer is going to be the one with the money, and then right below the executive producer is going to be the regular producer, called the producer, and they are the one who kind of starts to organize the whole production. They will oftentimes find a director. They will also help a director find a casting director. They can help find locations. They can help get insurance together. They kind of like organize the whole film. They get people in place. They make sure that the things are taken care of for the executive producer. Basically, they're kind of like running the show. A producer is definitely more involved in the day-to-day activities than an executive producer is. An executive producer might like sit in his high office across the country, and he would have like phone calls, and then the producer's actually out organizing and on set lots of days, making sure that things get done. Now, as an actor, you're most interested most often in the director or the casting director. A director is going to be obviously somebody who kind of, directs the actors and directs the scene. A director can hire a cinematographer or a director of photography. Both similar. They operate the camera and make the lighting and all of that. And they're also going to be making sure that the set looks the way that they want it to look. They're going to make sure that the actors are blocked correctly, that they're walking across in different areas the way that they should be. The director's kind of in charge of the creative and visual elements of the story. And they're definitely involved with how you actually perform on set. So, for instance, if you are, coming off as too sad in a scene, it's going to be the director who's going to be like, hey, can we try that a different way? It's looking a little bit whatever. They're going to actually be telling you how to act and how to appear and what you need to do with the other actors. So they're like right in your face. You're going to get very, very comfortable with the director on set. Now, a casting director is oftentimes hired by either the producer or the director, and their job is to find the actors for the film. they don't want to hire somebody or bring someone into a production that the director isn't going to like. So generally, casting directors will oftentimes work with the same director for many years so they can get used to each other. And they're also going to, if they're hired brand new, they're going to be very, very closely connected with the director in terms of talking about like, what does the director really want? What kind of character, what kind of brand should the actor have? They discuss all of those things, and then the casting director actually sits down and goes through submissions. And we'll be talking more about submissions later, but obviously those can be done either through video or in person. Since the coronavirus situation, a lot more casting is being done online because people don't want to, be coughing on each other and everything. But the casting director is generally the person who you're going to be seeing most, because if you look at your career in general, you might go out on 100 auditions and get booked on like 5 or 10 of them. So an audition, you're always going to see a casting director, and you're going to actually be working the director only that like 5 or 10 times, but you always be seeing a casting director the 100 times. So get used to working with casting directors. They're not your enemy. Their goal is to help find the right actors for the part. And we're going to be talking a lot more about what they're looking for and how that whole process works later on. Now, your job as an actor is to really connect both with casting directors and with directors. You can also even connect with producers if you'd like to. We're going to talk about how to do all that networking later on, but just be aware that the top 3 people that you want to become friends with, you can also become friends with writers, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but directors, casting directors, and producers are kind of like your top targets. Many actors don't even think about directors or producers. They only focus on casting directors. And honestly, if you're doing that, you're kind of missing out on another whole 2/3 of the game being played around you. There's like a huge number of opportunities out there for actors. And the crazy thing is that most actors just submit online or they go to classes hoping to network with casting directors, and they're literally only seeing like 1% of the opportunities because there's a huge number of roles that are just being handed out to actors left and right through networking and stuff. And these secret roles are the ones that make the biggest difference. And new actors particularly struggle with knowing how to access them. So we're going to be talking a lot about that in future videos.